Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to today's webinar on using digital marketing to make it rain for your mission. Make it rain. Oh man, that brings me back to those days of that song. I don't even know what it's called, but yes, I'm all about it. Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Jenna Notar Francesco. I'm an account executive at CauseVox, and today you're here for a CauseVox webinar on using digital marketing to make it rain for your mission. And we are joined by nonprofit strategist, Julie Edwards. I'm so excited that she's going to be the one leading today's webinar on digital marketing because she is so experienced and I just love all the tips that she has to provide for us. So I'm super excited. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I will say that this webinar is being recorded. So you don't have to worry about taking tons and tons of notes. You'll be able to watch this again on demand, and you will get a copy of the slide deck with all the resources included there. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar, I would encourage you to use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen, the bottom of the Zoom screen, or the chat. And so while we are waiting for everyone to join us, I just want to again welcome you. I'm so excited for today's webinar. Hopefully you'll have a nice little lunch break wherever you are, but we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to pop us in a quick message in the chat, your name, where you're from, maybe your organization, and this really important question, which is, if you were to travel, what would be your next vacation destination? And I don't know if Julie wants to pop in there as well, but for me, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I want to go somewhere in Europe. I think that would be really fun. But yeah, everybody else, you can share your thoughts about where would be your next vacation destination.
You know, I just got back from Europe, so I want to go somewhere warm and sunny with sand.
Nice. I've also always wanted to go to Alaska for some reason, but we'll see if that ever happens.
Oh, we have someone here from Ethiopia. Hello.
Probably Iceland.
Alyssa, I've heard Iceland is beautiful, but very expensive. So just know that, like, because they're it's such a small country, everything has to be imported. Very expensive.
Well, that's a good point. That's a point there.
Oh, Kristen, I went to Ireland last year in February and it was fabulous. Fabulous. You definitely have to go. And if you go to a sheep farm so you can hold baby lambs. And I know lambs are babies. I'm sorry, but it was the highlight of my year to hold a little lamb.
Oh man, I want to hold a lamb. 5 hours from New York City. Alyssa, are you in New York City? I'm in New York City. Hi. Maybe I should go to Iceland too.
Lovely.
Dell says all Scandinavian countries are expensive and beautiful. True. Hi, Joan. Traveling to Alaska later this year. Oh my gosh. We got a lot of travel twins here. Oh, Jerusalem. Yes, Margaret. Agreed there. I just want to go everywhere though. So this is really like not the best question for me.
Why can't you just be independently wealthy? So
that's amazing. Hello, Priscilla. Development Associate at Guttmacher. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. Guttmacher. Pronouncing that properly. Always wanted to go to Sweden. Hi, Linny. All right, everyone. I'm going to do this spiel one more time and then we'll get started. So welcome. Thank you so much for participating in my random vacation destination experiment here. I hope we all get to go there into these places one day just to explore the world. But for now, we're here and we are going to explore digital marketing for your organization. And so a bit of housekeeping. Again, this webinar is being recorded. You'll get a copy of all of the resources and the slides. And if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, feel free to just chat those into the Q&A panel. And we are going to get to answering those questions at the end in about 45 minutes. So here we go. We'll get started. Today's speaker, you're joined with Julie Edwards, our nonprofit strategist. And just a little bit about Julie. Julie actually entered the sector in 2010, working first as a development director and then as an executive director. So she's had like a 10-year plus tenure. That's a tongue twister. She has increased fundraising revenue by more than 600% over that time and oversaw approximately $850,000 in capital expansion projects. So she has a wealth of knowledge, and she's launched her consulting business in order to share all that she's learned on her journey. So we are super excited to have her here today. So please ask her all your questions. A little bit about CauseVox is that we help you to make your fundraising easy with our best-in-class online fundraising through donation forms and mobile payments and campaigns and ticketing, pretty much all-in-one fundraising for you. You can house everything under one roof. We also have hands-on support and onboarding with real people like myself. Hello. We will help you get your campaigns up and running so that you're set up for success. And also our top-rated fundraising education through guides and templates and webinars like this one today. But yeah, again, basically you can pretty much just raise more with less time and effort because we remove all the clunk from, typical or outdated forms. Right now you can take one-time recurring and pledge donations. You can also pair that with your crowdfunding, event ticketed, and peer-to-peer campaigns. We have, sorry, I didn't actually update this slide, but just so you know, our donation forms are now equipped with ACH direct bank transfer and Venmo in connection with Apple Pay, Google Pay. So really will help for you those recurring and pledge gifts because higher donors do really like that ACH bank transfer. You can sell more tickets on CauseVox. So if you're doing some sort of event fundraising, you can simultaneously raise funds and sell tickets at the same time. So just helps you to keep everything in one place instead of having, one platform for donations and one platform for ticketing. You can do it all in one. And that's alongside with your peer-to-peer fundraising, which is always a hot ticket market item. Here for peer-to-peer, it just helps you raise even double or triple, or I've seen organizations raise up to 16 times the amount using peer-to-peer. It's a fantastic technique just to multiply your networks for all of those fundraising projects. So if you're interested in learning more about CauseVox, you can go to our schedule a demo page. I'll pop that in the chat later on today. And then, book a demo with me. We can discuss your personal, like your own organization's fundraising plans. And then on top of that, if you want more free resources like today's free webinar, you can subscribe to our blog. And we send out information and free resources every week. So you'll want to stay up to date with that. And so now, without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to our lovely Julie Edwards to take the reins.
Thank you, Jenna. And I just want to tell everyone, I told Jenna, hold on, there we go. Can you see that? Are we good? Okay.
We're good. We're good.
My computer camera unfortunately died and I had to replace it. And this is my first time using it. So I notice I keep sort of going in and out of focus. So if you think that I'm blurry, it's not your eyes, it is my camera. Just wanted to mention that up front, but thank you all for being here today. If you've never taken a webinar with me before, I will just say I come from a place of great practicality. So I try to offer a lot of tips and inspiration and showing things that I've done and that clients of mine have done. Because I'm a visual learner, so I like to see those kind of things in addition to talking about them. So hopefully we will be able to work together today to increase your fundraising. Okay, how are we going forward here? Hold on. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk a little about why you need to marry your marketing and fundraising, sort of where you need to start when you do that and what the best practices are, the platforms you can use, and there's a ton of them, and then how you create your plan, again, some inspiration about what you can do. A little bit more, I know Jenna's already covered this. My background is actually in marketing, which is I worked in marketing communications before the nonprofit sector, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Again, I started as a DD and then became an executive director, development director, executive director, and I built the marketing and development programs of the organization I worked for from the ground up. They didn't have a marketing or a fundraising program when I started there of any note. So I have done this myself and I've learned things the hard way and, also seen things that work. So I hope I can share all those insights with you today. And that is my dog, Millie. She is my vice president of positive client relations, as I say, and love her. She's my heart. But yes, hopefully, I'll be able to share some of my insights with y'all today and with marketing and fundraising, because that is a hill I will die on, is that they need to be married. Just really quickly, a very basic explanation of digital marketing. It's basically anything that uses internet or online-based technologies such as computers, mobile devices, and other type of platforms to promote your products and services. I do want to stress that when I took over as the development director at the organization, I was a little intimidated at first because I had never done fundraising as a job. But I quickly realized that all fundraising is sales. And, a nonprofit is a business with a heart, as I call it, but it is a business. And once I realized that fundraising was just sales, I was like, well, I can market things, so I can do this. And that's how I realized that fundraising and marketing have to play together in order to be successful. And of course, I can't, tell you exactly what you need to do for your organization, but again, I can share some creativity and some best practices and some inspiration with you. So here's the stats section of the webinar. It's still amazing to me, though, how many people resist digital marketing among the folks that I talk with in the nonprofit sector, that they just don't want to take it on. But these stats are even astonishing to me. 500,000 new internet users every day, with 65% of the global population and 93% of Americans that use the internet in some capacity, with the average internet user spending at least 2 hours online every day. I mean, I think that's probably low, but as you can see, digital marketing and reaching out to folks digitally is just increasingly important. You really can't ignore it. The reach alone is just unparalleled. Specifically for smartphone stats, the majority of internet usage as of last year now comes through mobile devices. And by 2025, just in a couple of years, they are estimating that 72+% of all smartphone owners will solely access the internet through their smartphone. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But this is another side note in that you need to make sure your digital communications look great on a cell phone, a smartphone. For social media, 93% of global internet users use social media. That's incredible. And from 2020 to 2021, the users of social media increased by 180 million. Now, that was the start of the pandemic. And a lot of people were at home and got on TikTok and other platforms, but that is just, again, it's astounding stats to me. But there are almost 4 billion social media users worldwide, or just over 50% of the world's population. So again, the reach, you can't beat it. The benefits, obviously, there's multiple options and tactics for communicating with your audience through digital marketing. One of the best benefits, I think, is that it's very cost effective. There's usually low or no cost for a lot of this. Again, you can have a very broad reach to, depending on your mission and where you're located and what you do, who you can reach out to, who you can touch. You can get quantifiable results. In other words, you can, there's analytics and all types of measuring tools that are inherent to digital marketing that you can utilize to see if you're making progress. And then easier personalization. We'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. Working together. Again, I love this quote, but this is the hill I will die on, is that fundraising and marketing have to work together. It says, without marketing, your fundraising cannot reach its full potential no matter what you do. And I truly 1,100% believe that. That's why I'm doing this webinar today. So what does marketing do? Well, it builds your brand, and we're going to talk about brand in a minute. Targets your messaging, so you can have very specific messaging for very specific segments of your donors or other supporters or different constituents. It allows you, again, to communicate your messages about your mission and your work to the best audiences, again, targeting the stakeholders. And it's really awesome to use in donor relations. We're going to talk about that as well. So, where to start? Well, you need to make sure your messaging aligns. And basically what that means is You have goals, I hope, for your organization every year. So how are you going to reach those goals? What are you going to say? And how are you going to say it? That's very, bottom line is, that you make sure that the way you're saying it, the channels you're saying it on, the things that you're saying are clear and consistent. Again, be clear with your branding. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Again, using donor-centric messaging, which we're also going to talk about. And this is incredibly important, but creating a culture of collaboration between your marketing team, your program team, and your fundraising team. Now, I know not everybody may have all of those people on their team. So, if you do, I get it. But I have seen too many nonprofits where the marketing and program and fundraising people don't talk to each other. And they've got to all talk to each other because the program people are out there on the front end, working with the clients, seeing what's going on, getting the stories of the people. And that all needs to be communicated back to the marketing and fundraising teams so that they can utilize that knowledge to communicate with donors about what's going on in the organization, the impact they're having. So you have to make sure that your teams are talking to each other, that they're meeting regularly, that they are sharing information. I'm not going to lie, it can take a little bit of arm twisting and teeth pulling. I will tell you that the organization I worked for is a humane society. A lot of the examples in this presentation are from my time there. And when I started doing this, bringing together my teams, the program people, were like, why do I need to participate in fundraising? I need to be out here like rescuing dogs and doing this and doing that. I don't have time for this. But once they saw that when they brought the stories, how we could take those stories and use them to raise money, they got really excited about it. So it was a lot easier to get them to, to bring stories to the table. And they would come running to me like, guess what we just took in? We got this dog and it has two broken back legs. And, they would be like, oh, we got to tell, about this story about this dog. So, and I'm dog centric, y'all. I apologize. I know there are also cats. So those of you who are cat people, I apologize. Again, going back to, is your messaging aligned with your goals? Is your team on the same page about the messaging? And does your external audiences understand what you do? I wanted to right here have a heavy pitch for surveying. If you have never surveyed your donors or any of your constituents, I would highly recommend that you do this. You can use SurveyMonkey, which I think has a free option, but there's also Google Forms. And it doesn't have to be a long survey, but we did this once. We surveyed our donors, we surveyed our volunteers, and we surveyed our adopters. And we asked them, what social media do you use? Have you ever given online? How do you give online? What do you love the most about what we do? It can give you some really great information about where your people are seeing your, the people that follow you are seeing your messaging, how they interact. If they've ever given online, they prefer to give via check. I mean, it can really give you some great information. And I would almost say start there, and just to start with getting some information about what they do, how they do it, and what they enjoy seeing from your organization so that you can tailor your communications around that. Branding. So branding is sort of a fancy word to me, but it basically means your visual identity. And it's very important to be consistent, but it also helps define your purpose and your personality. And I, again, highly recommend as a hot tip that you develop an organizational style guide. Basically what that is just a booklet or a piece of paper that says, here are the fonts we're going to use. Here's the colors we're going to use. Here's the way our logo can appear. And you can Google organizational style guide or nonprofit style guide, and I guarantee you'll find a million examples of it that you can probably get inspiration from. But it's incredibly important, and here's why. So this again was from my organization. And if you think about it, if you think about organizations like Delta or Coke, you know immediately when you see Delta and their colors and their logo who that is, without any words. And so not that you're going to be a Delta or Coke, but that's sort of what you're aiming for. You want to strive to be as consistent as possible, because what you want people to see your post and know it's you before they even read the copy, right? So it's about the fonts, the colors, the logo placement, the overall look. You can see all these posts have a clean white background. They have one graphic, the all caps, dark orange, which was one of our colors that we use. That logo is usually in the bottom left-hand corner. So these are all things that we did consistently to, again, establish our branding so that people would know when they saw a post that was our post. some more. Now you can see these options are not are not as branded, but they still follow similar the colors and the logo, and still within brand, but not quite as tight as the other brand. But I did want to have a quick mention about Canva. I hope that most people know Canva by now, but if you don't know Canva, Canva is an online-based graphic design tool, and it's actually gone beyond that now, but it is free for nonprofits. You can Google Canva for nonprofits, and you have to send them your 501c3 letter, and you can get the platform for free. But even still, I think it's only like $13 a month if you pay for it. But the great thing about Canva is you can set up templates. You can set up your brand in Canva, so it automatically appears when you're doing your design work, and the colors are right there, the fonts are right there. It takes a lot of the nitty gritty work out of what you do. So again, I would highly recommend that if you don't have Canva for social media purposes alone, you should definitely get Canva. Donor relations. So again, I think one of the most important reasons to use digital marketing is to talk to your donors, and not to ask them, but to thank them and report back and to let them know what you're doing. We're not talking about asking here. We're not talking about asking for money at all. You want to use you a lot. You want to share with them how their gifts are making a difference. And the other great thing again about digital marketing is you can really create different messages for different segments. It's very cumbersome to write 10 different letters, but it's a lot easier to tweak an email and send it to 10 different donor groups, and maybe not 10, 10's a lot. This was an example of an email that we sent, and that this was actually a donation receipt. And when you have a platform like CauseVox or whatever, where you run your donations through them, there is a receipting option, and there is a generic receipt that you can use. It just says thank you for your donation, but you can also go in there and personalize it, which I would highly recommend. And so we put this photo, we would change this frequently, of an animal, this mom and her babies that we had rescued. You can see it is personalized to the donor twice. Her name's up here and her name's down here again. And I think there are 12 instances of using the word you or your in this email. And again, this is just a donation receipt, but we told a story, we told them how they were making the difference, what they did, but a lot of you. But again, I would highly recommend you customize your donation receipts. This is a great way to communicate with your donors, and you can leave it the same thing. You might want to change it quarterly. It's really up to you, but a great way to tell your donors immediately who just made a gift the difference they're making. This was some communications from a campaign we did every year called Food Bowl Fund, which is when we raise money for our to buy our food for the year. And you can see, the consistency. Will you fill my bowl? Can you help feed homeless rescues? We need you to meet our goal. And this was the campaign thank you gift letter. And again, I think you is used like 8 or 9 times in that letter. I also think that it's great if you can do this, to put a photo on there of the whoever you're serving. If you have a children's charity or it's appropriate to put a photo on there. I also want to say, as a side note, something about irregular caps in all caps in social media, in Instagram, Facebook, any of those. You cannot use bold or underline or anything like that. But what you can do, if you want to draw attention to something, is do all caps or irregular caps. But midnight tonight, that kind of thing. Anything that you want to emphasize, I would use that judiciously, very infrequently, but it is something that you can do. Even on the letter, thank you for filling their bowls and more. And we could bold, we still, made those things big so they really pop out. This was actually a Valentine's Day campaign we did one year, and this was 2 halves of the same campaign. So the graphic on the right, we had a program called Adoption Angels where people could sponsor an animal, a rescue, cats and dogs. So we actually sent this graphic, and it was a template-sized graphic. It was the same for all the animals that were being sponsored. We just had to go in and change their name here, change their name here, and drop in their photos. We created that in Canva and just changed those 3 parts. And then we sent that via email to the donor who was sponsoring that animal. Great little, quick, easy, didn't take that long because it was all temple sized, but it was very specific to that donor who was donating for that animal. This graphic and messaging went via email to all our other donors, just our generic donors that weren't necessarily sponsoring an animal, but just gave in general. So it was, like I said, it's two parts of the same campaign. And I also want to say another note here about, I always say corn is delicious. If appropriate, again, for your mission, it may not be appropriate, but if you can be a little cutesy or silly sometimes, I don't think that's a bad thing. People love that. People like a little corn. But more than anything, remember always when you're talking to your donors or any of your constituents, to be authentic, to be transparent, to be warm. I mean, you basically want to talk to your donors like you're talking to a friend. So what do you choose? Okay, sorry to use the word ASS, y'all, but if you're a Parks and Rec fan, you probably know the Ron Swanson meme where he's like, don't half-ass anything. But I truly believe that it's better to be really, really good at one or two things and try to do everything and not do them well. So for the purposes of the rest of this presentation, I'm going to be talking specifically about social media and email marketing, because those are by far the two most used. There's a whole lot of other digital marketing tools out there, but social media and email make up more than half of the tools that, the percentage of what's used. And they are easy and they're accessible to everyone. You don't have to have any special education necessary to utilize them. So the first thing you need to do if you're trying to decide what you want to do is be really realistic about your capacity. And what I mean by that is, do you have the people? Do you have the equipment? And do you have the time to do what needs to be done? And how much can you dedicate to that? Word of caution here, I would be very careful about allowing volunteers to handle your social media. Unless you, I would not do it. I would always have that be a team member. It makes me very nervous to have someone that is a huge communication. A lot of people give you feedback through that. They can get upset and post negative comments. You want somebody handling that on your team on the inside, in my opinion. So I would definitely, there may be instances where it works for your organization and you totally trust someone. Maybe they're a former staff member, now they've, left, but they wanted to help out. Okay. But just be careful about that. Does it make sense for your mission? We had Instagram and Facebook at the Humane Society, which is what I would highly recommend most people have, one or other or both of those. Twitter didn't make sense for us. I had this one board member who beat me up all the time. We need Twitter. We need Twitter. I'm like, no, we don't. I'm not tweeting. I'm not doing that. Just you sort of think about it now. TikTok, is the hot thing now. I can see TikTok being very relevant for certain types of nonprofits. I can see it not being relevant for other types of nonprofits. I won't go into the detail of that, but you'd like to think about, does that make sense? Also remember that TikTok is video based. So you've got to be able to have someone that's going to shoot those videos and edit them if needed. So that's a totally different level of engagement than a static post on Facebook or Instagram, which I know Instagram also has Reels because they're trying to be TikTok 2.0. And then of course, you don't have to boost posts, but you can. And if you want to have fun to do that, and then you're thinking about who your audience is and that you're going to target again. And I'm not going to go into this, but we're going to talk about choosing the most suitable networks for you. But again, a couple of quick notes about social media. Remember that social media is sort of live time, and that there are advantages and disadvantages to that, because you can't interact with your audience directly communicate with them through post and through direct messaging. But the downside of that is that you have to have somebody who is constantly updating and monitoring it 24/7. No, but you don't want to have somebody that leaves a question on there about, hey, can I come adopt this dog? Or hey, when's your next concert? Or I want to get into this program or whatever. And, no one answers them for a week. That is not going to be good. So just remember that whoever is doing your social media, that they also need to be on the back end, making sure that they're monitoring comments and that they're replying to them. And you also need to have a plan. I'll say this as a tangent for any negativity. I personally don't agree in blocking and banning people. I think you should just address negativity head on. our rule was if somebody left a negative comment, my team would go on and say, we're sorry you had this experience. Please reach out to our executive director, Julie Edwards, here's her email, here's her phone number, and she'll be glad to talk with you. So we did not engage with them. I just said, you need to redirect them to me. But I don't know that we ever deleted a post. Now you can turn off commenting if it gets really bad, but again, I would try to mitigate those situations without doing that if you can. Social media uses. So again, social media is great for tagging donors, especially corporate donors, to thank them, reporting back on campaigns by providing regular updates, showing photos and videos of what's going on. And of course, talking about donation needs, especially urgent needs. And again, Google social media design for best practice tips. There's tons of them out there. These are a couple of things, again, under the here's what your support made possible. Now, this was on my personal Facebook page, which is basically a secondary Humane Society page, but this little dog on the left actually came to us with 2 ruptured eyeballs, and we had to remove them. So he did not have any eyes at all. And I don't know if you can see, but he had a little halo that he wore around his head that kept him from bumping into things. And we did a little video of him walking around with his halo on, and I posted it on my page. We also posted it on our Facebook page, our Humane Society Facebook page. This dog was actually a dog that came to us with her puppies. Her name was Sunny. And after she, in the process of us vetting her, we found out that she had an inoperable tumor, that she was basically going to pass away at some point. And so we, for months, 6 months, tracked Sunny. So this was actually a day that we call it Sunny's Big Day Out. We took her out on a boat. We gave her a Starbucks pup cup. We took her to PetSmart and let her pick out toys. But it's just a fun thing that even though it's a very sad story, it was a way to show people that, we're able, because of you, to give this dog her best life as long as she is living. Before and afters are great. If you have, if this again applies to your mission, your organization. I mean, these are the one on the left is much more graphic, but of animals that came in that, were just in horrible shape, very, very visual, obviously, thanks to you, this dog now looks like this. This is the difference you made. But those are always very good. But I'll also remind, another side note, when you're taking photos, be tight, be clear, take the photo tight and keep it simple, keep the background simple. This again is another thing about Sunny, about us tracking her, and about tracking stories and campaigns from beginning to end with regular reports and updates. So this is when Sunny came in with her puppies. This was her, her big day out, and a bunch of people sent her blankets. She loved blankies, so like people started sending her all these different blankies. And then moving on, so this is actually when Sunny passed away. And when she passed away, we actually put up a video collage of her, and we thanked people and said, with a heavy heart, we're telling about her passing. But then we talked about, without you, she wouldn't have, lived these best and happiest months of her life. And so a lot of this is thanking the different people that participated, in making her 6 months the best 6 months of her life, and just the donors in general. And so don't be afraid to talk about hard things or show graphic images. And I always say this because people need to know about the problem so they can be thanked for their part in helping solve it. Email marketing. So I thought this was an incredible stat, and I also want to go back and see if this is true. But the great thing again about email marketing is you can really personalize it, because you can put people's names in it, and you can target specific donor groups by segmenting. But it said that personalization is proven to increase open rates and drive revenue by as much as 750%. So that's pretty, that's pretty impressive. And I don't remember I got that stat. I should have put that on here. But again, you should be gathering, when you're gathering emails from your donors, their first and last name, and then segmenting your donors again in a way that is meaningful to your organization, which could be monthly donors, major donors, event attendees. And then you can use those segments to write specifically to them. That said, remember, you can write one email and just change one line, the intro line or the intro paragraph. You don't have to totally change each email for each different segment, but you can personalize it and make it special to that group. email software. So I'm not going to go into the details of email software. There's MailChimp and Constant Contact are the two biggies, but there's a ton of other ones. A lot of them are free. Some of them are free. Some of them offer free trials, customer service. You really need to look at, these are some of the things you can look at when you're thinking about an email software. I would say, however, if your budget allows, that you do actually use an email software. Your donor database, your CRM, may have email inherent to it, but usually, from what I know, most CRMs lack the robustness that you need to really do email properly, like the analytics and the types of things that you need. And they're usually not as user-friendly as the email platforms like MailChimp and Hootsuite, Constant Contact. Email uses. So again, being very targeted, reporting back, very similar to social media, personalizing communications. Again, tip, Google email best practices for design, to figure out how to lay out your emails. Here are some quick email samples from that we did. This was actually when we started doing, this was totally just a donor love thing, where we started sending a Feel Good Friday email. So every Friday, we decided that we were going to send an email that was a great story about an animal that we had rescued. And it actually wound up being a blog post. So it linked back to our website, which also gave the, added bonus of it linking back to your website. But we would put an awesome happy photo of the animal, call it their happy tail. And donors loved these, loved them. We would get comments back on them all the time. And again, it was very simple. We reused a lot of these stories in direct mails and on social media and other things. And we'll talk about reusing and repurposing a little bit more later. But these were awesome. I also had a client that I worked with at year end, that one of the things that she does, and I just wanted to mention this because I don't have an example of it, is she does behind the scenes kind of videos. So she also has an animal rescue in India. They rescue street dogs in India. And her team in India will take photos behind the scenes of them feeding the dogs and playing with the dogs and vetting the dogs. And they'll send those, they actually don't send them to all donors. They send them to a certain segment of their donors. And she said they've gotten such a great response to that. Here's, because it makes people feel special. They're getting to see something that other people don't see, right? Just some more emails that I've sent for clients. Actually, this is a client that I worked with. Again, photos, language, personalization. It says first name or Pibble friend, but that's because we don't have the name. This is a sample email. The bolding, include photos as much as you can, possibly videos too. You can embed videos, are always great to see, but donors need to see the impact of their gift. I think this is one that's especially, again, this is sort of the before and after, but you can also say with you, without you, again, which brings in the you language of here's this dog, in a kennel, horrible mange, whatever. Now here he is snuggled up with his new best friend in his new home. This I actually got this morning, this email. I wanted to share it. I dropped it in at the last minute. And this is actually the rescue group I was just talking about in India. So I actually helped her develop her fundraising plan for this year. And one of the things that we looked at was days. So that relate to animal welfare, but there are days that relate to everything in general or specifically. And so today is International Dog Biscuit Appreciation Day. So random, right? But she sent the cutest email, and I love this. And she says, who knew there's an entire day dedicated to dog biscuits? And then she put really cute photos of them giving out dog biscuits to their rescues. Then she talks, there was a video in here too, but I couldn't bring the video in, but it was a little video when they go out to schools and teach kids about, proper interaction with street animals. They take an animal and have them give them treats and teach them the proper way to feed treats to animals. So they showed a video of the students doing that, which was also great. So you have photos, you got a video. And at the very end, she does drop in a very soft ask about, if you want to give our pups a treat, here's our Amazon wish list. But I love this email so much, I just had to put it in here because this is a perfect example of digital marketing that just makes your donors feel good, makes your supporters feel good, and is fun and cute. And this is an email to me that no one would regret receiving. It delighted me, and I did a fundraising plan and I still loved it. So building your plan. So, like everything in life, got to have a plan. And the first, like all good strategies. And again, figuring out how everything is working together to support each other. Define your goals, understanding and segmenting your audiences. Again, going back to surveying, if you can do that. Considering any constraints, again, what capacities do you have as far as time, human resources, monetary resources, planning your content, how you're going to execute, measure, and change things up over time. And why are you doing this? Do you want to raise more money? Do you want to increase awareness of your mission? Do you want to grow your donor base? All the above. So really think about why you're doing what you're doing. Content creation. So content creation can be a pain, I know, but I'll give you some tips about how you make it easier. Build a story bank. And by story bank, we literally built a folder in Google Drive, and we had a folder for each month of the year. And within that folder, we would have a folder of each story of each rescue we took in, for example. So it would be Sunny. And then within that folder would be an ongoing Word doc of Sunny's time with us from the time she came in until she was adopted, her photos, like her intake photos, her surgery photos, her whatever photos, but it was all in one place. And let me tell you the amount of time, it takes some time on the front end, but the amount of time it saved us later when we were hustling, trying to pull together information for a newsletter or a direct mail or year-end campaign, that we could go and pull that information right out of the story bank. Similarly, you can build a photo video bank. If you don't have if you have photos that don't apply specifically to specific, animal or whatever whoever you serve, you can just say, here's volunteering dog photos, here's staff and dog photos or whatever. But, in other words, photos that don't tie to a specific story, you can build a photo bank or video bank of those things as well. So again, you can go and grab them really quickly. Creating post templates, again, going back to Canva, if you have some drag and drop things where you can just drag a photo in, change a thing and make it super easy and simple, that's great. Keeping a list of social media ideas, which I actually have a list and I'm going to share it with y'all via email after this webinar. And also, like, as you get in subject lines and emails from other organizations or just even personal, if there's an email subject line that's just awesome, that you're like, wow, that's a great subject line, I keep a running doc of great subject lines. And I highly recommend you do that, because then later when you're trying to think of a great subject line, you can go, crib from that if you need to. The other thing I would also recommend is to follow other similar organizations for inspiration. I followed Best Friends Animal Society, ASPCA, the Humane Society of the United States. I followed all the bigger animal welfare organizations and even some really big regional or state humane societies that had really great content. And it's not that I, cribbed it directly, but sometimes it would give me inspiration, like, oh, that's really cute. We could do that here, but we could change it up and do X, Y, Z. But again, highly recommend that you follow other organizations, either personally or, and just to see what they're doing or from your business page. Again, this is just some template posts that we use talking about that. Selfie Sunday, this is in Canva. This is a frame. So we just drop the photo in every week, change the name of the animal. Pet of the week, dropped in the photo, change the name of the animal. Wish list, dropped in the photo, change the whatever we were asking for that week. So you can, again, do some templates for recurring posts, and then it makes your life a lot easier when you get ready to create that content. Content execution. Let me just here very, very emphatically say, make a calendar. There are tons of them out there. If you Google content calendar or content planner, some platforms have content calendars built within them. I think Canva actually has a content planner within it now. But whatever works for you and your organization and you and your team, do it. But you need to have this all written down somewhere. Trust me. So you're not, reposting things and missing things that you should be doing. And always remember, it took me a long time to learn this lesson, y'all. You can reuse and repurpose content. You can, write a story for your newsletter that you can also put in a social media post, that you can also put in an email, that you can also put in a direct mail. And, people may see things, but they don't always remember the specifics. So, don't think that every time you have to create something, you have to create new and fresh. You can just change it to make to make it work for the platform you're using. But that's why I said, build your story bank, build your graphics bank, or your phone and your photo and video bank. And then remember also, you can cross post. Now Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company. So I think like if you post on Instagram, you can choose to post on Facebook and vice versa. And there are posting tools and platforms like Later and Hootsuite, and Facebook Business allows you to schedule on the back end. So use those to your advantage as well. Really quick, a word about posting and sending frequency. If you are doing nothing right now or very little, like you're just posting twice a week on social media, I would recommend slowly building up. We were posting an average of 5 times a day on our Facebook page when I left. But that was not where I started out when I was alone. As my team grew and the organization grew, we grew what we could do. Again, going back to what you have the capacity to do. But strive for once a day to begin with, and then work up to more as you can. For email, I think as long as you're balancing thank you, reporting back, cute emails like the Valentine emails and the the International Dog Biscuit Day emails with asks, you are good. You can't just send ask, always asking for donations and consistently, and never send the good parts, the cute parts, the reporting back, the thank you things. So just make sure that I'd say for probably every ask you send, that you're sending 2 to 3 emails that are just, here's some great news. And that could be a newsletter, that could be a weekly feel good email, whatever that looks like for your organization. Here's just a sample content planner. This is similar to what we used. We would put at the top any events for that month, any service, program stuff that was going on, any holidays. You can, schedule the general time over here, or you can just put morning, midday, evening. We would literally write in there what was going to happen on that day. And we would read it out, like make it read as it was posted or scheduled. So anybody could go into this. It was shared across our team, and we could see what had been scheduled. And then also we always left some open blocks so that let's say we got an animal in and we wanted to put a post back to raise money via the donate button. We could say, okay, well, we're going to take off this vaccine clinic post and drop in that post there about that animal instead. So do leave yourself some flexibility when you build your content planner. And we're at the end, y'all. So freebie, so there's a freebie. I did build out a freebie. So when I get I think we're going to be sending out the slides later. So we'll send you links to the freebie, but there's a lot of checklists, worksheets, things to help you start planning from what we talked about. Again, if you need help, I don't have any specific products or programs going on right now, but I do fundraising campaigns, fundraising plans, program development, and strategy for marketing and donor relations. I do offer a free 30-minute discovery call. So, if you need help, please reach out to me on my website. You can schedule it through there, and we can talk and see if, it's a good fit. If there's something you need help with that I can help you with. And I will say I'm not outrageous. I'm not a, $500 an hour consultant. Some testimonials you can read later. And now we're to Q&A. And I almost got it done. We've got 15 minutes left. I may have talked too fast, John. I apologize if I do, because I know I do too.
Wow, Julie, you're fabulous. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Wow, we talked about so much, like from social media to email marketing to just, it's all about stories and impact. And thank you so much for all of those really great examples. I think we have a few questions here. So Margaret asked at the beginning, how to be cutesy with ministry to women in prison.
I actually work with an organization who does this. So I would, when those women, so you're ministering to them while they're in prison, but I mean, there's got to be happy moments, right? I mean, it can't all be sad. And so maybe, and I don't know what you do. So I'm just guessing, like maybe y'all have a luncheon for them once a month where you take in pizza, because I don't get to have that in prison. Like you can take photos of that, like them laughing and smiling and eating their pizza, and send it out and go, today was pizza day. We were able to do this. We were able to, give them a treat that they wouldn't normally have because you give us donations. So it doesn't have to necessarily be cutesy, but just not always serious or totally mission related. Just maybe more fun is a better word. But I think, and I know there are some organizations, types of nonprofit, that's not going to work for. I get it. It's hard. Prison, cancer, battered children. I mean, there, it's going to be hard that you probably can't do that, but when you can, I say try to figure out how you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just highlighting like the way that change is being made, right?
Yes.
Um,
And it doesn't have to always be heavy change, is what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we helped. It can be, there can be a light side to change.
right, like right? Like a perk or a highlight or something.
Yes, exactly.
Some element. Maria is asking, where is it more strategic to place the digital marketing area or efforts, under development, or should it be a separate department since it works together with almost all areas of the organization?
If you have the ability to have the right size team, you need to have a separate marketing department, because you need people that are skilled in doing those things. Because there is a lot of detail about digital marketing that even I don't know, like the back end stuff, like the analytics and the impressions and the how you do it for best practices. And people that have been trained in that have a degree in that, are going to know that. So I would say separately, but those departments again need to be right beside each other in the same space, talking weekly, sharing, here's what's coming up. We need, and sharing their information consistently across the board.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, does anybody else have any other additional questions, insights? Tony. Okay, Julie, can you talk a little about one-time online donations like $10 versus recurring monthly versus fundraising campaigns versus fundraising, which add up the most and hardest to get?
Ooh.
Okay, I guess this is more about like donations specifically.
Those are all very different things, Tony.
Yeah. So I guess, Tony, I would say, so yeah, the types of donations that you're asking, I guess it would depend on your fundraising goals and efforts and the nature of your donor base. Yeah, so there are differences between monthly donations and of course fundraising campaigns, which could be more tailored to specific projects. Sponsorships and sponsors, those could be a monthly thing, or it can be again tied to a specific event for event fundraising, or a specific type of goal. What should we
small new NPO? You mean for fundraising purposes, anything you can get. No, I mean, again, this goes back to the marketing part, because if you're not out there doing the marketing on some level, sending emails, doing social media specifically, even just like I said, Facebook or Instagram or both, how are people going to know about you? They're not going to know about you. They're not going to know what you do. They're not going to know the good you're doing. They're not going to know how they want to be involved in that. So you've got to be doing the marketing again in tandem with the fundraising. But again, I would say, do a newsletter every month and one nice cute email to donors, and try to do one Facebook post a week. Do what you can, that as much as you can within the capacity you have, to get the information out there about your organization and the difference you're making, and thank the donors. Remember, when you're thanking people, you're going to thank everybody. Like if you're going on Facebook, it's like, thank you all. You may have 10,000 Facebook followers and maybe only 80 of them gave to you, but you're thanking everybody, because, the message is, we're just grateful because you would not be there without donors.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to say thank you to those of you who gave, you just say thank you for giving. But do remember that. Don't.
And Tony, I don't know, I don't know if it sounds like you're looking for more of like a fundraising strategy year round, like what types of funds are you going out and asking for? If it is, like a type of strategy, CauseVox does have resources available for you to create a fundraising plan for the whole year. So to identify your funding goals and then what that's going to take to achieve those goals. I would say, like, based on just like my experience working with small nonprofits, it is really nice to get a monthly donation, because it's sort of like almost not guaranteed, but it's more of like an ongoing income, like something that you can rely on a little bit more. So if you can get those small monthly donations, I think that that's a real benefit, and to
Monthly
be
donations have a 90+% retention rate. They have the
right, right.
highest by far retention rate. So if you can get monthly donors, like Jenna's saying, those are sort of a money in your hand kind of thing that you can count on every month. Let me also just speak to what Jenna's saying about your fundraising plan. With that, you need to have a budget. I am always amazed at even bigger organizations that will call me and say, oh, we need you to help us with our fundraising. And I'm like, okay, what's your budget? How much do you need to raise? And they're like, budget? I don't have budget. You need to know how much money you need before you need to know how much money you need to raise. So
Yeah,
don't go out
exactly.
there and just start trying to raise money. Figure out what you need to raise money for.
Yeah, getting those numbers all in order first, right? That's a huge and critical part. Let
1,000%.
me find that fundraising calendar and I'll put it in the chat. In the meantime, I'm also going to put in the chat Julie's contact. So I'll start with this fundraising calendar and plan.
Thank you, Maureen. That's great advice for Tony. Maureen came on and said, market how you would use your recurring gifts, how the impact they would make, and how they provide sustainability for your organization. Focus on that rather than the one-time gift. So that's great. That's a great advice, Maureen. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And then I'm also, because I know we have just a few more minutes, if you all have any additional last minute questions, please feel free to chat those in. I'm going to just drop Julie's contact, or well, her email, her website, and then
put my email there too. And then I will be sending y'all an email with the links to the freebie that's related to this webinar. And then, like I said, I have a second freebie that's like content ideas for social media that I'll just send as well, that you can download. So because sometimes it's just hard when you've got all these other things on your plate to think about, what are we going to post next week? But yeah, you're welcome to reach out to me via email. Just say, you saw me on this webinar. I can answer questions. If you have a quick question or think of something later, I'm glad to do that. If I hadn't had the help of many wonderful people along the way, like I am now, to help me when I was a DD and an ED, I don't know what I would have done. So I'm always glad to pay that forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. Your support is always so appreciated, especially with our audience here. And if maybe you are a new nonprofit and you are looking for a way to actually receive the donations, we would be happy, CauseVox here, me at CauseVox, I would be happy to to take you around, have a show of our donation form, and just see how the donation form and our campaign sites might be able to help you actually collect the donations in connection with Julie's marketing support. I dropped out the demo link and also our fundraising resources if you're interested in learning more about donations. And then also I'll just add our chat, or into the chat, our support email in case you had any further questions. But yeah, I think that's probably everything. I don't know, Julie, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, and I know it was a lot to cover, y'all. It's hard to be generally specific while also covering a large breadth of information. That's why I sort of had to narrow it down to social media and email, but that's by far, I think, the most accessible platforms for people to use. But just again, I can't tell you how to be creative, but I can give you inspiration and some ideas and the why as to why you should do it. But talk to your team, talk to your donors. I mean, sometimes they can tell you things, and again, just step outside your comfort zone sometimes to do things that maybe might be a little silly or a little different, but those might be the ones that really bring in the best response.
Gotta take a risk sometimes. All right, well, thank you again, everyone, and I look forward to hearing about your fundraising stories, and happy fundraising all.
Thank you all. We appreciate y'all. Thank you, Jenna. Bye-bye.
Bye.